Right here. All right. Well, the disillusionment is about to begin. So, very lovely, warm welcome. And soon you'll be slinking out saying, God, I was so excited to see him, and he talked for a while, and turned out he was pitiful.
Now, how many of you have already gone to see Wally up in the exhibit hall? How many of you? Well, shame on the rest of you. He's still here the rest of the weekend. To start off with, I'm wearing a Star Trek lapel pin. One of my favorite shows that you've popped up on is Star Trek Deep Space Nine. You know, fans of The Princess Bride think of one word, inconceivable. I think of you with two words, and that's sex symbol. Grand Nagus Zek on Deep Space Nine. I mean, he really, I mean, he did better than most of the main cast in terms of you know, chasing women.
Right, they were, I mean, I don't think we thought of ourselves as humans. So I don't know if women is the right word, but yeah, it was. It became very romantic as the years went on.
Well, you did quite well with the females.
Yes,
as it were.
yes.
What was being on that set like? I mean, you have such an extensive experience in the theater, and I've heard Star Trek sets referred to by the cast members as being like a regular theatrical troupe that people drop into on occasion. Was there much of a kind of social aspect to it, or was it jump into the makeup chair for hours and hours, you know, get on screen and go home?
Well, there was no. Can you hear me? There was no social aspect of Star Trek for the Ferengis, I would say, because we had to, you know, you may not think that we work actors, but and in a way that's true, but in another way, there are long hours, and you know, the typical day in a TV show or movie is 12 hours. And we had to get there, the Ferengis, 3 hours early to put on the makeup, or I certainly took 3 hours. And then you had to stay an hour later to get the makeup taken off, at least if you're going to get it taken off properly. I mean, I had one occasion of it being taken off too quickly, and I ended up in the infirmary. Ooh. But so there was no socializing because it was just an unbelievably intense, long day. And not only was there no socializing, but we almost never saw each other in our human, you know, faces, and in fact didn't recognize each other when we first saw each other without the makeup, which is weird. But you sort of came to believe the makeup, and I still kind of, I mean, at first when I would look in the mirror, I would be shocked. Eventually, I just thought, oh yeah, I'm looking good today. And still today, many, many years later, I'm kind of upset when people show me a picture of my character not looking as handsome as I think he should. And I'm quite vain about the pictures. So no, there was no socializing.
Well, you certainly looked good enough to snag Quark's mom. Now, one of my favorite films, there is another of my favorite films that, again, you guys are going to get to ask him about, that I think really stands the test of time as a cinema classic, is My Dinner with Andre. See, I told you that we would have the right crowd. We would have exactly the right crowd for this. If you could take us back a little bit, when you were putting My Dinner with Andre together, rewatching it recently as an actor in my mid-30s myself, I found more to relate to than the last time I saw it. Where were you at in your career, in what you were wanting to do artistically, when the opportunity to turn this into a movie came to you and Andre Gregory?
Well, for those who don't know what it is, My Dinner with Andre is a film about, now I don't want to discourage you from seeing it. I'll tell you honestly that it is a film about two people having dinner together and having a conversation. But it's more interesting than that. Not to everybody. Many people have died of boredom and had to be carried out of the theater. But to other people, it's really interesting, and people have seen it many times. So the two characters are based on me and a friend of mine who I'd worked with, a theater director called Andre Gregory. And weirdly, we made the movie 40 years ago, more, but we're still actually working together, except that we've become old men. I started working at it when I was 36. Now I don't want to say. He's 84. And he's older than me, quite a bit older than me. I won't say how many years, but he is quite a bit older. He had been successful in the world of weird theater, which means that he had a small company of actors who traveled and did their shows in other countries and all over. And the shows were amazing, and he was kind of idolized by a tiny group of people. I have spent my whole life really doing this kind of weird theater. He is a director, and I write plays. And it had never crossed my mind to be an actor till I was about 35, and a different friend had gotten me to translate a play, and he was putting it on in New York City, and he asked me to be in it. And I said, well, I'm not really an actor, and I wouldn't be able to be in it. And he actually offered to pay me to be in the play, although in the world of weird theater that we do, pay is rather unusual. Mostly it's done for its own sake. And there are many people who give their whole lives to it and make very, very, very little money and live very simply. I lived by being in debt, basically to friends who were doing a little bit better than me. And I thought my writing was, I thought it was great, even though most people would have found it awful or ridiculous. And I didn't feel any shame about living in debt. And my plays were not, they were performed, but people didn't particularly like them. In fact, a lot of people hated them, and they got very bad reviews. So the other friend offered me a job in a play, and I took it, and I was then an actor. And I did, I think, 3 or 4 small parts as an actor and developed the confidence, well, I think I could write something for film. And my friend had had a lot of very strange experiences, and he and I were quite different. He believed at that time in a lot of strange things. He traveled to India, he traveled into the Sahara Desert, and he sort of became a disciple in a way of a different people. And I was sort of had a pretty, I thought maybe he was nuts. I didn't know what he was up to really. And so I said to him, let's do a movie that's sort of about us and that's sort of about our differences. And we'll be talking, and I don't know where we would be talking, but we met and talked on audio tape, recorded our conversations over the course of several months, and then I wrote a script that was based on those conversations, and we memorized it, and we had the opportunity to meet a great director who we gave the script to, Louis Malle, a French director. And I was, we thought that 2.5 people would like it, just the way, there were 2.5 people who liked my plays. It never occurred to me that a lot of people would like anything really that I did in a way. And it wasn't done with the idea that we just thought it would be interesting. So that's the background to it.
Well, one of the beautiful things about the film is that the conversation, Andre leading it for much of it, conjures so many visual ideas where it's 2 guys talking. Visually, it's 2 guys talking. It could be the least interesting thing possible, but the way that you selectively took all of those hours of conversation and found very theatrically, but in a filmic way, the things that made you want to follow along, in the way that when you're at dinner with a friend who is just talking about something that just makes you go, huh? It really gives you a really lovely opportunity to do some really nuanced reaction acting. And I wonder if at any point, having written this and having known the words that are going to be coming out of his mouth, did you find yourself ever, kind of forgetting the cameras were there and going back into the mode of when you were listening to him saying these kinds of things over dinner and over conversations or parties, that kind of thing? Did you lose yourself in the character, as it were? The character being yourself.
Well, the character, we each played exaggerations of certain parts of ourselves. We turned ourselves into characters, really. And by the time we made the movie, we no longer were really like these 2 people at all, in a way. And memorizing this extremely long script was a technical feat for both of us. The movie is 1 hour and 3/4, and it's just us talking. And we also, in making the film, we rehearsed it over the course of many months. But we had to film it in 2 weeks, and because we couldn't afford to have a longer period, and it was a dinner. So there was a lot of, he didn't talk, I mean, he talked an enormous amount and didn't eat much. I did a lot of listening, and I ate like a pig. In fact, I did gain a lot of weight in those 2 weeks. And you had to memorize what you were eating when you said a particular line, because when you're making a movie, you do the same thing again and again and again, and it looks, insane if you're not physically doing the same thing when you say the same words. That means after a movie is filmed, then the editor puts it together. So you may have 10 takes from different angles, and you're saying something like, well, I really think, we talked about so many weird things, and
it could be, about what the best sandwich down the street is.
Right. You if you're saying in one take, and you have your glass of wine in your hand, and you say, well, my favorite sandwich is chicken salad with bacon. If you do that in one take, and then in the next take you say, well, my favorite sandwich is chicken salad with bacon, you can't edit those two pieces of film together, or it would look insane.
Or it could end up looking like you're taking 7 sips from the same glass and it never goes down. It's the never-ending supply of wine.
Exactly. And so it took a lot of memorizing and a lot of... So, no, it was a technical feat to do it, and we never forgot that we were making a movie.
We're going to get some audience questions. I have a couple more for you. One of the things that I like doing with these Q&As is talking to guests about things that they don't get asked about all the time. Maybe that some of the people that love some of their most beloved work don't know about parts of their filmography that they haven't explored. And My Dinner with Andre now forms something of a triptych of 3 films that are theater-related, not quite theater itself. The second being Vanya on 42nd Street. Lovely, wonderful film, came out in the 90s. The most recent one, just about 5 years ago, directed by Jonathan Demme, very much after and in the footsteps of Louis Malle, who also directed Vanya on 42nd Street. I wonder if as we're selling very quiet, serious theater work to a room full of fans, you could tell us a little bit about A Master Builder and the process of translating this work, finding a meaning within this work that is famously difficult to comprehend, and why you dedicated as long as you did to finding a way to make this work as a theater project, and then how that translated into the film that we ended up with just a few years ago.
So this is a movie called A Master Builder that, my friend here has seen, and he might be the only one. It's... Not a lot of people, even in my own town, which is New York, very few people saw this movie. After my death, I think it's going to be a big hit. But so far, it's been rather quiet. You all can easily rent it or see it, and it's based on a Norwegian play by Henrik Ibsen, which originally appeared in the 19th century. So it's a very, very weird, strange play that even in its time and even in Norway is not a big seller. Even among people who like the plays of this guy, Ibsen. And he wrote it when he was older, near the end of his life. And we broke a kind of record, I think, in that we started rehearsals in 1997, and we made the movie, I think, in 2014. So about 17 years of rehearsing this piece, which I translated with the help of a Norwegian scholar. And when you rehearse over a period of years, you reach a point that you barely even know that you're saying lines. It just seems like your own life. It's very, very natural. And you express rather intense feelings without even knowing it in a way, or without making an effort, or without having to struggle to find those feelings. And I don't know, the play is sort of about a guy who's possibly dying, and he's living rather miserably with his wife, and something either really happens or he dreams that it happens, which is that a young woman sort of comes to save him or maybe to kill him. It's hard to say. She does both, really. So, well, it has old people and young people in it, and the old people stuck with it, but the young people got to be too old. So the young people who are in the movie are not the ones we started rehearsing with. But the old people, we stayed alive and we kept doing it.
Any fans of Airplane out there? Yeah? Julie Hagerty from Airplane is in this. It's something that I like bringing up because if you haven't seen it, like many of you have not seen, shame on you all. It really is, for me, the finest, most wonderful filmed example of your ability and range as an actor. And I just, for selfish reasons, I love urging people to see it, who have seen you so many times in, a couple of movies and dropping into TV shows that they love. It's a wonderful thing for you to experience if you haven't experienced it yet.
Well, it's certainly the best part I've ever had as an actor, and
I mean, you gave it to her yourself, so
yeah.
Be selfish if you can.
And Julie Hagerty is absolutely unbelievable in it, incredible. She's so great playing my wife, and it's a heavy story, I have to tell you. It's serious.
If you really feel like a nice Saturday afternoon grappling with mortality, boy, that is exactly what you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot about death in there.
Now, I've got one more little one for you, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. You have guest starred on so many shows. Recently, you were on Young Sheldon. You have played Dr. Somebody in about 70 different shows. You famously do not own a television to this day.
No, never got one.
Never got one. No. Never got around to it. Too busy. For somebody who does not own a television and who has done so much television guest starring work, have any of those experiences in particular been particularly fun for you? Whether the atmosphere of the set, the kind of role that you played. Sometimes it's your results are ready and this is what they are. But what has been the most fun about popping up on different TV shows? Well,
I mean, for me, acting in television has been a very joyful experience because I something about sitcoms is very, very comfortable for me, and it was a beautiful thing for me to be in The Cosby Show. It has a kind of tragic aftermath, and it's hard to know, what to feel about that experience, but it was very moving and sort of thrilling to be out at Murphy Brown.
Murphy Brown's coming back.
Yeah.
You should give him a call.
Yeah. It was, I mean, that was a very politically frank show, and rather amazingly so in that period. And I had a great part. And now this young Sheldon is a thrilling opportunity. I have no idea why they hired me, and I'm very, very grateful. And it's a fantastic show, and it's incredibly well written, and I have a part that is very, comes very naturally to me somehow. So there's a light touch to television that is not true of movies or theater. It's somehow less terrifying, and people are having more fun. I don't know. Movies are very serious and quite frightening because you almost never, I always feel I don't get enough takes to get really good at doing the scene. And I'm, it's basically frightening to have the whole crew, 75 people are staring at you, and it's up to you to kind of make something seem believable. And it's very, very hard to do that. Movies are supposed to be very believable. So even if it's a very simple scene and, you're the doctor, as I've been more than once, and the patient comes in and you say, well, hello, Mr. Smith, it's great to see you. What's your problem today? It's not easy to make that believable because you're not really a doctor. You're not really in a doctor's office. The guy isn't really your patient. You've never met him before. It takes a lot of tries to make that seem real. And theater is terrifying because you're doing a lot of dialogue and you have to come on and be believable for the whole play without having a chance to really go back and study it again. Television is more relaxed. It's more like putting on a play at school, and it's more fun.
Well, speaking of fun, we have a few minutes left. If we can rapid fire through some questions, I want to get to as many of you guys as we can. Let's go right here. Yeah.
Great. Hi, Wallace. A question I always wanted to ask you. In the 1980s, Alec Guinness, after he made Star Wars, famously was worried that what he was going to be remembered for wasn't the Lady Killers or Bridge on the River Kwai. It was going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Have you just come to terms with the fact that you're so good at so many different things that there will be people who remember and love you for some things and remember and love you for other things, like your playwriting and that sort of thing?
Well, I could get upset about the way after my death not enough people appreciate certain things that I did, but I don't know what will happen after my death. I kind of care about it now. My feelings are sort of hurt in advance, but to be absolutely frank, I don't really believe that we are one person each. I think we are quite a few people, each of us, sort of collected into a bundle, and I don't want to compete with myself beyond a certain point. I've been very fortunate, and yeah, I'm not ready to get into that much bitterness.
Next up, let's go just right here across the aisle. Yep, right there.
A lot of people know you really well for your voice acting work. What would you say was the best, what was your favorite character to voice act?
Well, you know, I'm still doing it, so I don't want to, you know, offend anybody. I don't dare to answer it. I'm still looking for work.
You don't want to say a non-Pixar property, and then Pixar's like, why didn't you say a Pixar movie, Wallace?
Right. I was in a great one that nobody's seen, Teacher's Pet. Has anyone seen that?
The biggest fan of Teacher's Pets in the room, everybody.
Yeah, really? It's you. Oh, great. Wow. How amazing. Yeah, it's a great movie that you and I have seen. Yeah.
So I've got good news and bad news and an apology. The apology is that we got such a wonderful, beautiful, long-form look at Wallace's career. We've only got time for one more question. The good news is it's going to be the best question in the universe because you're the best audience in the universe. Who thinks they have the absolute best question in the room? The absolute best. Prove it. Prove it. I have to tread Pirate Roberts. I mean. If only for the staginess of calling on the Dread Pirate Roberts last. Go for it.
Okay, I'm down for I okay.
Hello, Lucy. My question for you is this. In all your years, have you learned to find that true love is possible, or is it inconceivable?
Now, one, the answer to this question could be the length of a dissertation.
Yeah. No, I do believe in romantic love, and I do, for those who disbelieve in it, I would encourage you to try it out.
It's a great pastime.
I mean, weirdly, the way we're constructed, there's a drive to get together with somebody else, and also to bust out of that, if you're lucky enough to achieve it. We're, both polygamous and monogamous, and in a way self-sufficient. And we're stuck with these different parts of ourselves. But yes, I think, I do think that love is key to human happiness, or maybe for animals as well. Yes, I do believe in that.
So the apology that I had was that we didn't get to more audience questions, but I hope that this Q&A was unique and wonderful and special and once in a lifetime for you as it was for me. Wallace is here the rest of the weekend. If you have not gone to see him, as so many of you did not raise your hands, indicated you had not, please go and see him. And if you would do me the favor of one more time, let's raise the roof for Wally Shawn.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for watching the Convention Junkies coverage of Fan Expo Canada 2018. Join the conversation below with a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see more. If you would like to help us with future projects, please visit our Patreon page.